This is Gringo Loco. You're listening to the Dave Dynasty Show.
My little itty-bitty bruiser buddies.
United States heavyweight champion, Brazil.
The world's heavyweight champion from the AWA, Nick Bockwinkel.
The Midwest supporting, bruiser loving, positivity spreading, world's most dangerous podcast. Join former pro wrestler and promoter Dave Dynasty as he supports and promotes Midwest pro wrestling. Keep on growing with the Midwest Express. This is the Dave Dynasty Show.
Greetings and welcome to the Dave Dynasty Show. I am your host, Dave Dynasty. Thank you for joining us once again here on the Midwest Pro Wrestling Podcast Leader. Is that cocky to say? I don't think so. I think I'm feeling safe, right? We try to bring you the best in Midwest Pro Wrestling history, particularly, but we also try to open some eyes on some of the current product and current stars out there, and we do that with a nice mix today. We are joined by a friend of the show, a partner of the show. I mean, he's a regular feature because this man has so much knowledge and experience in the world of Midwest professional wrestling, particularly in the WWA. John Lawson is on today, and he's joining us to remember Rene Goulet, who passed away earlier in 2019. And he talks about his time in the WWA Indianapolis working for Dick the Bruiser, where he was known as Jacques Goulet, a member of the Legionnaires. But if you've seen Rene Goulet, if you've watched the WWF/WWE in the past, however many years, because he was a backstage agent and he was always out there during scuffles and mishaps, and he was very known for the Rene Goulet hair. So anyway, John is on to remember Goulet in that segment today, and then we have Ike Isaacs, co-host, interviewing the right hand of God, Sam Knight, as we focus in. You just like how I said that, right? How can you say the phrase "the right hand of God" and not put a little oomph into it? But Sam Knight is on with Ike to talk about his career and his start and where he's going. And as we like to shine on a young up and coming star in the Midwest, Sam's a talented dude, and you're going to hear from him, and you're going to enjoy that. So that's on later in the show too. So like we said, we bring you a little of the now, we bring you a lot of the history, and that's the way it is. So let's just get right to it, right? We're just can't hold in. We're happy you're here, and let's jump right into it. Take a break. When we come back, we got John Lawson remembering Rene Jacques Goulet. Hey, make sure you visit DaveDynasty.com. That is your central hub for everything within the world of the Dave Dynasty Show. From there, you can find links to follow us on all of our social media accounts. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube, which you will want to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have lots of classic wrestling, every episode of the podcast, and other exclusive features there. While you're at DaveDynasty.com, check out the links to help financially support the show. That is how we keep this free every week. You can go to ProWrestlingTees.com/The Dave Dynasty and buy a shirt to help us out. PayPal.me/The Dave Dynasty to make a one-time financial contribution. Patreon.com/The Dave Dynasty to make ongoing monthly contributions. Or you can click our affiliate links for Amazon.com and HighSpots.com. No additional charge to you, but it helps us out. Thank you for your support, and check out DaveDynasty.com. Complete your experience, The Dave Dynasty Show.
In December of 2019, the wrestling world mourned the death of Rene Goulet, who is also known as Sergeant Jacques Goulet of the French Foreign Legion. Even though he had passed away in the spring, it took over 6 months for the news of his passing to be announced to the wrestling community. The Sergeant Jacques Goulet character was created in the WWA. Goulet was the top of the card heel there during his 2-year run. Thus, on today's episode of the Dave Dynasty Show, I'm going to profile Goulet's time in the World Wrestling Association. Rene Goulet began his wrestling career in the late 1950s in Montreal. It was there that he met Mad Dog Vachon, who recommended that he wrestle in the U.S., and he was able to get him booked into the AWA. His real name was Robert Bedard. The French pronunciation was probably Robert Bedard. But he was given the ring name of Rene Goulet because he closely resembled Robert Goulet, a singer and actor from that time period, and someone that I recall as a frequent visitor on talk shows during the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Goulet spent most of the decade of the 60s and early 70s being based out of Minneapolis, where he worked for Vern Gagne as an undercard babyface who would sometimes get shots at the tag team championship. Goulet would leave the AWA and venture back to Canada or other U.S. promotions such as Florida, where he worked for Eddie Graham for several runs in his territory. During one of his engagements in Florida in the early 70s, he did a heel turn, but he was otherwise a career babyface prior to coming to the WWA. In 1971, while working for the then-named WWF as a face, he teamed with Carl Gotch to be the second tag team to ever hold the WWF Tag Team Championship, a title they held for about 3 months. Dick the Bruiser and Wilbur Snyder would have been familiar with Goulet from all three working in Chicago, as well as throughout the AWA. Bruiser came up with the gimmick of a French Foreign Legion wrestler, and Sam Menaker, the TV announcer, as well as the general manager of the promotion, added some details to the character. Goulet made his WWA debut in June of 1974, during a transitional period of the WWA. The Valiant brothers, Jimmy and Johnny, had just lost the WWA tag title and headed for the WWF. Bobby Heenan was wrapping up his time in the WWA in order to move full-time in the AWA. According to the program for the night of his debut, Goulet was to be managed by Roger Kirby, but that did not happen. The program lineup sheets were produced in Chicago by Bob Luce, the figurehead promoter and matchmaker for Indianapolis, and the actual local promoter in Chicago. It appears that Luce's office got the part about Kirby being his manager incorrect, but Goulet and Kirby were originally going to be paired together as a tag team, but that did not pan out. We're not sure if it was Bruiser or Kirby who changed their mind on making them a team. In his WWA debut, Goulet teamed with the Ox Baker, who was also making his debut in a tag team match with a win over Tom DeMarco and Johnny Starr. Johnny Starr, ironically, would end up managing both the Ox and Goulet. Goulet was rushed into main event status when he interfered in the main event that night, attacking Dick the Bruiser, resulting in Goulet facing Bruiser on the next show 2 weeks later. And he beat Bruiser in an Algerian hooded death match, a match where large masks were placed over their heads in order to prevent them from seeing. In a rematch in July, Bruiser beat Goulet in a German Gestapo death match, where the only way to lose was to have your second wave a white flag to surrender. Bruiser was seconded by Cowboy Bob Ellis, while Goulet was seconded by Bobby Heenan. The program referred to it as a cage match, but that was not the case. During the flag match, Heenan accidentally hit Goulet with the flag, causing Goulet to fight with Heenan. After a short brawl, the two were separated, and Heenan waved the flag, causing Goulet to lose. You can find a short video clip of this match available on YouTube if you search for it. Around this same time, the Sheik returned to Indianapolis for his first time in many years after winning the promotional war in Detroit. And on the very next card, the Sheik teamed up with Goulet in the main event to face Bruiser and Thomas, and that's another match that you can find on YouTube. In August of 1974, Private Don Fargo debuted in a singles match with a win over Bill Nixon, and the Legionnaires tag team was formed, with Goulet as a Frenchman, and Fargo as an American who supposedly joined the French Foreign Legion, but was said to have left the military organization under mysterious circumstances. The Legionnaires were immediately wrestling the main events on the circuit and given a tag title shot on their first appearance as a tag team in Indianapolis, which took place the very next month on September 21st, 1974, where the Legionnaires teamed up and beat Wilbur Snyder and Pepper Gomez to win the belts. The next show was October 12th, 1974, but the Legionnaires, the new tag team champions, were not even on the card. There must have been a second WWA show or a card taking place in Chicago that night. Otherwise, they most certainly would have been on the card. In the fall of 1974, the Legionnaires began being managed by Johnny Starr. There was an interesting match that took place in March of 1975 with a 6-man tag team match. The Legionnaires teamed up with Ox Baker in a losing effort against Dick the Bruiser, Pepper Gomez, and Bruno Sammartino, who returned on the card. Lou Thesz also returned to Indianapolis for the first time in about a decade, and this would also mark Fargo's last appearance in the WWA. In April of 1975, Soldier LeBeouf replaced Fargo as Goulet's tag team partner, and the Legionnaires continued with their tag title reign. On TV, Goulet said that Fargo was a coward and that he had kicked him out of the team. We never found out exactly what caused Fargo to leave the territory, but it was apparently a rift between Goulet and Fargo that resulted in his departure. A few years before his death, Don Fargo published an autobiography in conjunction with Scott Teal's Crowbar Press. Fargo's time in the WWA as part of the Legionnaires was discussed in the book, but I was disappointed that it did not provide any details about the breakup of the team, with him leaving while being a co-holder of the tag title. But from all accounts, it seemed as if Fargo held no animosity against Goulet or Bruiser. Thus, we still don't know if he quit or if he was fired. The Legionnaires began feuding with Bruiser and Crusher in the summer of 1975, and they lost the tag team championship to Bruiser and Crusher on September 20th of 75 in a Gestapo death match, which is also known as a Coward Waves the Flag match. And during the match, Bruiser and Crusher pummeled Johnny Starr and threatened him with additional violence, causing him to wave the flag. After losing, the Legionnaires beat up Starr and fired him as their manager. They were then managed by Gentleman Saul Weingroff, and the team resumed their feud with Bruiser and Crusher within a few months. In the WWA, when a heel tag team dropped the title, they usually left the territory, but the Legionnaires stayed around for another 6 months or so, but they were unsuccessful in regaining the tag team belts. The Legionnaires were 1 day short of holding the WWA Tag Team Championship for exactly 1 year when they lost the belts to Bruiser and Crusher. This was the second longest reign for any team to hold the WWA Tag title, with Blackjack Lanza and Mulligan being the longest reigning team. Goulet eventually finished up in the WWA in January of 1976, and LeBeouf finished up the following month. As a kid, I remember when Goulet came to the WWA, he'd been in our territory about 2 or 3 months, and I'd bought a newsstand magazine that featured someone by the name of Rene Goulet. I'd started following other territories through the magazines and the dirt sheets, but I didn't remember seeing Rene Goulet in magazines before that time. I showed the article to my dad and told him that Jacques Goulet used to be Rene Goulet. At the next show in Terre Haute, Goulet was on the card. My dad, working in the capacity of the State Athletic Commission, showed the magazine article to Goulet and told him, "My son says this is you." Goulet replied, "No, that says Rene Goulet." My dad told him, "Well, it does look like you," as it was obvious that they were one and the same. Goulet then smiled and asked how old I was, which I guess was probably around 10 or 11, and he told my dad that your boy must be pretty smart. In Terre Haute, we got to see some tag team matches involving Goulet that Indianapolis never got to see. Legendary 6-time NWA World Champion Lou Thesz had come out of retirement in 1975 after a few years on the sidelines, and we got to see a couple of matches with the Legionnaires wrestling the tag team of Wilbur Snyder and Lou Thesz in some very good tag team bouts. The most memorable Goulet match in Terre Haute, however, was at a big show held at Holman Center. For years, the home of Terre Haute wrestling had always been the Armory, located near downtown and near the Indiana State University campus. Because there was no air conditioning at the Armory, they experimented with running shows in the summer in the brand new and much larger Holman Center, which had become the primary venue for concerts and ISU basketball. Holman Center holds around 10,000, over 5 times the size of the Armory. The Holman Center shows were treated as something special, with more big names and more matches. A usual lineup in Terre Haute in most of the cities in the WWA circuit outside of Indianapolis would have just 4 matches, but the Holman Center shows would usually have 6 bouts. One card of Holman Center featured a 2-ring double battle royal, where 2 rings were set up side by side with about a 6-foot space between the two. Some territories would have 2-ring battle royals where the rings were essentially touching one another and everyone started out in the same ring, and then the wrestlers would be tossed over the top rope from the first ring into the second ring, where a second battle royal would take place. In the WWA, however, the two-ring battle royal was different. It was two battle royals taking place at the same time, with the gimmick that you had all kinds of action to watch. The two battle royals had 10 men in each ring, with Wilbur Snyder winning in ring number 1 and Goulet winning in ring number 2. I remember that the TV advertising and perhaps even the newspaper ads had said that the winners of the two battle royals would win $1,000 and the winners would then face one another. I took this to mean that they were going to face one another that same night as the battle royal, but that was not the case. After the match was over, the manager of Championship Wrestling, Sam Menaker, announced that they would face each other in the ring at the next show across the street back at the Armory. Goulet attacked Snyder during the presentation of the checks, setting up the match between the two of them with all the money on the line this time. And that was a match that Snyder ultimately won. After leaving the WWA, Goulet worked in Georgia and the Carolinas and kept the heel Sergeant Jacques Goulet gimmick, but not the Legionnaires tag team gimmick. He eventually made his way back to the WWF by the late 1970s as Rene Goulet, where he finished up his career in the mid-'80s, with the exception of an appearance here and there. After retiring from the ring, Goulet worked as a road agent for the WWF for many years, and he would be seen on TV from time to time when they needed to have security and the agents break up a brawl. In retirement, Goulet made his home near Charlotte, and that's where he passed away in May of 2019 at the age of 86. For reasons that no one has uncovered, his family purposely did not make notice of his passing to the wrestling community until this past December. As a final note, I thought there was something interesting about the WWF Tag Team Championship reign of Goulet. The first champions recognized as WWF Tag Team Champions were Tarzan Tyler and Crazy Luke Graham, and Goulet and Carl Gotch were the second team to hold the title. According to the WWF, the team that Tyler and Graham beat in a match to determine the first tag team champions were none other than Dick the Bruiser and the Sheik, in a match that obviously never took place.
Since 2001, drug companies dumped 1 billion opioid pills in West Virginia, causing over 3,000 overdose deaths and thousands of babies born addicted by no fault of their own. I'm attorney Stephen New. If you're the grandparent or guardian of a child born with neonatal abstinence syndrome, call me. I'll help you seek just compensation.
Call the law offices of Stephen P. New at 1-844-BAD-PILLS before time runs out.
And welcome back to the Dave Dynasty Show. I'm co-host Ike Isaacson. Today we are joined by the right hand of God, Sam Knight. How are we doing, my sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. So first question is always, Sam, where are you from?
And I made the move to the Midwest back in late. I decided it was time to leave roots behind, and you know what I mean? So I moved this way.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, so sorry to introduce you, no doubt, coming to the Midwest and starting wrestling. So I guess before we get to what childhood like, did you watch wrestling as a kid, or is that something that kind of...
A family of entertainers. My father was a martialist. My grandmother was a boxer. Both singers. And my father put my sister and I into martial arts growing up. So I took Taekwondo growing up, but it really wasn't the physicality I wanted, you know what I mean? So I played football in high school. That didn't really work out. But wrestling had always been. I started like religiously watching wrestling in '99. And I remember the first match that I really got into was at the Royal Rumble in '99 for the then WWF Championship. And watching that, I got so huge on watching The Rock that I told my dad, that's what I want to do when I grow up. And, you know, my dad wasn't trying to be mean, but he's like, you know, stuff is fake. No, it's not. It's what I want to do. And so I ended up graduating high school. Out there to go play football, but some things that happened where I decided against it, and I stayed home. And home would be Los Angeles. So I started wrestling. I had already dabbled in going to go look for wrestling school. I'd gone over to the old R1 Center in Redondo Beach, California, the old UPW, and I never really got signed up there. So I went to most independent wrestling. And the only reason about that is because somebody handed me a flyer at a WWE show. And so I went there, and the rest is history. Because, I'm not going to answer, but yeah, I mean, the rest is history. Everything just took off from that moment.
Absolutely. So like you said, being a lifelong fan of wrestling, very, very few of us take that up and, get into the ring and really engage in that passion. So you took that next, you went from being a fan, you went into being a active participant in this, wonderful sport. So tell us a little bit about your training, who you trained by, and then what was that process like?
Well, like I said, I started off at the R1 Center, and that really didn't pan for me. And then I'd gone off to start training with, there was a company, an independent company called HPW, Hybrid Pro Wrestling, and they used to run out of, it was like Bellflower, California. So, and they were a place that they had guys like Los Luchas and Carl Machine Gun Anderson and Billy Ryan and the Young Bucks when they were super young, like when they thought about going to these shows. Come to find out, the guy that was the booker of the show, he had a ring in his backyard, and they were training people. So I took that opportunity to go train there. And we were doing these backyard classes, and I remember forgetting one day, Joey Chaos walked into the backyard. Now, for people who don't know who Joey Chaos is, he's an old XPW, I think he's XPW TV champion. In the back of the backyard, and Angel, they called him the hardcore homo, that was his gimmick. He showed up, and Supreme showed up, and Chaos's wife, Sylvia, who was Jezebel, she showed up, only for us to find out that they were taking over the training, and we became the first class of Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy. And for those people who don't know who Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy is, Santino Brothers is one of the biggest wrestling schools in Southern California, and it started off in a backyard in Nolan. So they began to beat the training into us, teaching us how to defend ourselves in the ring, teaching us how to be great wrestlers, from rolls to drills to everything. I just didn't have it in me. I thought I did, and I didn't. So, I would, wrestling is completely and I found that out real quick, and I ended up getting cut from the school. So when I got cut from the school, I had lost my passion. It kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. You know what I mean? Kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. And then I would say that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because after that happened, I ended up going to the AWS Wrestling School, which is in the City of Industry. Met a whole lot of other people. And after I left AWS, I got my full extensive training at Pro Wrestling Academy under the tutelage of the Vampire Warrior Gangrel, Richie Fatu, and the Count of California, Black Pearl. And that's where Sam Knight was created. I mean, that's where the character, the right hand of God, Sam Knight, was created. Because I was training with some heavy hitters. Not to take anything away from anybody else I trained with, because they're a hell of a school. But Pro also prepared me for television. So it taught me how to promo, taught me ring aware, taught me how to have a character. And like I said, that was all she wrote.
Absolutely, and obviously, with that training, you, especially, do through different people, I feel like that gives you a lot of great perspectives. But like you said, where you taught you how to, be more just a wrestler, but to also have a character, to have a fluid character that you can throw out there and people will enjoy. That's a very important part of wrestling that I feel like people don't, understand much. So now I want to kind of talk about when you moved to the Midwest. When you moved to the Midwest and you started wrestling here, obviously independent wrestling just in general is really explosive right Independent wrestling is probably I would say it's the best wrestling across the board. TV wise, it's better than the mainstream wrestling. I would say, obviously, but recently in the Midwest, there's been a huge resurgence of wrestling. You see all over the place. So, do you feel like you are representing the area that you work in? Do you enjoy being a part of the Midwest wrestling? And just kind of talk on that a little bit.
Well, yes, because I am a major part of New Wave Wrestling here in the Midwest in Terre Haute. I am currently New Wave Pro, and I have been pushing this on social media that New Wave Pro is the place of opportunity, and we are bringing a new wave, so to speak, to pro wrestling. I love the Midwest because this is the place you get to see people you wouldn't see anywhere else, and we're always creating new stars. And that's nothing against the West Coast, because I love the wrestling on the West Coast. I haven't had the opportunity to wrestle on the East Coast yet, and I'm praying I do. But being in the Midwest, it has brought me to be able to work with a lot of great talent. Guys like Cole Radrick, guys like Dalton Davis, guys like Jason Lee, like a whole lot. And I named those guys because those are the guys that I work with on a constant, save for Cole. I've known Cole since the beginning. But a lot of these guys I have the chance to work with on a constant because they're constantly coming out of New Wave locker room. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm 15 years in, and being 15 years in and having the body of a 15-year-old wrestling guy, seeing how these guys work, give me more, like you said, a resurgence. It gives me more of a revival, so to speak. It gives me more of a reason I want to keep going. So I think that I'm representing the Midwest well, and not even so much from the wrestling aspect, but from the booking aspect, from being the locker room leader. I think that I'm doing the Midwest justice. I'll say that much.
Absolutely. And I would definitely agree. I mean, you're doing great stuff. I mean, and like you said, you've been wrestling for a bit, and you have so much. Not only do you have so much knowledge of the business, but I've seen you wrestle before, and just have a lot of in-ring experience that.
Thank you, sir.
You can't beat that. I mean, that's unbeatable. But speaking of, one of my favorite questions I love to ask people, especially people who have been in business just for a little bit, especially with someone who has got as much experience as you do. What's a top highlight of your career so far?
So most guys would say it's wrestling against the names. Don't get me wrong. I love wrestling. When they bring big names in, I like wrestling them. Working with those guys, it's great because you always learn something from them. The highlight for me is being able to get in there with guys and make new stars. That's probably an answer that you weren't expecting. But the reason why I say that is because I know what it feels like to be in their position. You know what I mean? To have, for example, I'll use this example. I wrestled Gangrel. That's got to be one of the biggest matches I've had, especially him being one of my trainers. I wrestled him once in 2010, and I wrestled him a second time in 2013. And the second time in 2013, I was a more mature Sam Knight as opposed to who I was in 2010. So in 2010, when I wrestled Gangrel, I was nervous. And I remember him and I talking about it. And we went out there and I forgot everything. I forgot what to do. I forgot how to do it. I knew my moves and forgot. And so I looked like a deer in headlights. And talking to Gangrel after, he made me feel more comfortable. He made me feel like I did okay. He's like, regardless of what happened out there, I'm proud of you. So when I get ready to go out there with guys who are like 1, 2, 5, 7 years in, I'm going, okay, kid, let's go out there and make magic. And some guys are like, oh, I just don't know what to do. And it's like, you look at them and go, you're going to be fine. This is going to be the easiest night of your career. And that's not saying that I am the greatest wrestler of all time, because I'm not. I'm just a guy trying to make it like everybody else. But when I can go out there with a kid who ain't been wrestling very long, and I see how passionate this kid is, but how nervous this kid is at the same time, and we can go out there and make magic, it means we're doing right. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that would have to be a highlight of my career.
Absolutely. And you're right. That's not what most people would expect in an answer, but I feel like especially for somebody who has the experience that you have, and the career longevity, because when that's your mindset in wrestling, you can go anywhere. Even if one day you decide to stop wrestling, you could open up a school, you could start booking, and that's a fantastic mindset to be in. And I would say that's probably one of my favorite answers to that question.
Thank you.
in my time doing these interviews. So I guess another fun question, and this one sometimes we get a mixed bag of answers too. But with professional wrestling and with all things, there are good things and there are bad things. But especially with independent wrestling, a lot of people they have their gripes about independent wrestling. But what would you say is, in your opinion, the best and the worst thing about independent wrestling?
I always talk bad first, so we'll go bad first, because I like to always end on a high note. The worst thing about independent wrestling can be the lack of a union, so to speak, and the lack of governed payouts. Let me explain. So every guy has their rate. Hey, this is what I charge. But I think that if there was a way that we could have, like, I don't want to say insurance. I'm not talking about medical insurance. I'm talking car insurance and stuff like that. Accidents happen. I just recently saw a couple of guys that I know were heading back from a show, and they got into a bad car accident. Nobody got hurt, but the car got totaled. That's coming out of somebody's pocket. And that sucks, because sometimes that's not something you're prepared for. And not to mention, the payout you made that night sometimes doesn't cover that accident. You see what I'm saying? So it could be looked at as a worst case scenario, a bad scenario situation. A friend of mine, Shiloh Greaves, him and I were heading back from a show that was like darn near in Michigan back in January of last year. And I opened the show. I wrestled my match. He wrestled before. He wrestled on the pre-show, and I opened as the first match. We got dressed, and we started making the long fly back home. So we got ready to go past a stoplight, and it was snowing, and my car slid and smacked the curb, and it blew a tire. Somebody has to pay for that, and it's okay. But you understand what I'm saying? It's not a fun situation. It's not a fun situation to be in when it's freezing cold and it's snowing and you have a flat tire. So, but the benefits to this business, the travel, man, getting the opportunity to perform in front of different people, different walks of life, and telling a story. Like, I love this business, and I've gained a lot from it, and I've lost a lot for it. Big experience. And I think that everybody who wrestles should look at it from that point of view, because we never talk about how he was very upset with the fact that a lot of the younger talent never came and asked questions. And he said, and someone else said that the moment that you think you know everything in this, yep. I love this business so much, and it's not just for the fact that, but I love this business because, and I had this conversation with a friend of mine this morning on IWTV or whatever this kid's going to see me on and go, Mommy, I want to be like him. It's the same way I was when I would look at the Raw and he was wrestling. Dad, Mom, I want that guy. So if that generational wish and dream can continue, then I'm doing my job. I did something right. You know what I mean? So.
No, absolutely, and that's
all I got.
And that's always a good thing too about professional wrestling and independent wrestling is the idea of a legacy for sure. Hoping that somebody can kind of footsteps of the people before them. That's always a hope, because without the next generation, we won't have wrestling. So.
Right. Exactly.
So I want to take this down a slightly different path. We've talked a lot about, wrestling, your career, your training, everything, leading up to where you are now. But now I kind of want to talk about something that a lot of people know the in-ring person. They know who Sam Knight is inside the ring. But a lot of people don't know what you're like outside the ring. So, what do you like away from the ring? Do you have any interesting hobbies? What do you do on the day to day?
I'm a dad. I'm a dad. I usually don't talk about going into personal stuff, but I will say that much. I'm a father, and I love being a father. I love to read. I love to write. What you see is what you get on social media. I'm in the gym a lot. I may have a dad belly, but still I'm there. I like to train. I am the guy that people come to. And this is not just talking about the wrestling aspect. I'm the guy that people always get in contact with to ask for advice. You see what I'm saying? Because once again, I've been there. My dad was the same way. People who, if you know anything about my story, my father was very influential in my career. And so I patterned my life after the legacy he left behind. You see what I'm saying? So I've become the same kind of person my dad was, which is not a bad thing. I spend a lot of time traveling, and it's more so wrestling. To be honest with you, my life has revolved around this business for years. So I work, train, spend time with my kids, and I wrestle, and that's my life. And some people may be like, man, that seems like a boring life. It's not. It's not, because when you love something and you're dedicated to it, you do it. No matter what, you do it. So yeah, that's the life of Sam Knight. That's my life.
Hey, that's all you need right there. You just need to, like you said, you got that dedication. You have the business that you love. So you got your stuff that you do, and you do it well. That's can't complain about that. So one last thing for you before we kind of close out. Obviously we know that you've done some great things, and I know that you're going to continue to do awesome stuff in the ring. But what can we expect from Sam Knight in 2020? I mean, it's January. We have a long year ahead of us. So what can we expect to see from you in the coming year?
For 2020 is the year that somebody's going to sign Sam Knight. I am putting that into the atmosphere right now. And the reason why I'm putting that into the atmosphere right now is because I'm going to do my part to make sure it happens. Now, God forbid it doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, it ain't going to be because of me. Because I am going to exhaust all options. I am going to bring everything to the table. I am going to show people a side of Sam Knight they've never seen before. A more dedicated, driven Sam Knight. People thought 2019 was a huge year for me. It was. But 2019 was just the precursor, just the step to show you that 2020 is going to be bigger. More promotions, more states. I'm looking to leave the country this year and get more footage, more people that I'm going to be matched up against. More footage. I am praying that I end up signing a contract to somebody's company so people can say, hey, Sam Knight's a household name now. My main project right now is New Wave Pro Wrestling. For those who don't know, I am the guy behind the shows. I am working alongside Michael Guest and Chris Abel as the booker of New Wave Pro Wrestling, and I am bringing to the area a different view of pro wrestling that people have never seen. Next Saturday night, we've got Sefa Fatu, who is the son of Rikishi, coming in, and I'm defending the New Wave Pro Championship against him. We've got Nick Iggy coming in to face off against Percy Davis at New Wave. So we are doing big things down at the Terre Haute Armory, and that's just the beginning. This is only the second show of the year. Imagine what December is going to be like. So that's the one thing I can tell people: keep watching. Watch my social media, my Instagram, my internet, my YouTube channel. Listen to podcasts like this one. Or like other podcasts that I've done. I'm always going to drop a hint about something, and usually when I drop the hint, I make good on my word.
Absolutely. And that was what I was going to ask you next. I mean, we live in the technology age, so I just wanted to give you a minute to throw out all your social media so that way people know where to find you. And then also, if you have any upcoming shows, I know you mentioned one there just briefly, but any upcoming shows you have, you can go and throw them out there so people know that they can come see you.
Okay. So far as social media, you can look up on Sam Knight on Facebook, Knight Honor on Instagram, Knight Domini, that's Domini. It means the right hand of God, Sam Knight. You can find me there on Twitter. Let's see what else. Shows coming up. This Saturday, I am defending the New Wave Pro Championship in another company in Warsaw, Indiana at FWF. Next weekend, I will be defending the New Wave Pro Championship against Stefan Fatu for New Wave Pro, and that's at Terre Haute Armory. And like, if people have more questions about my schedule, I usually post it to the social media. Facebook's usually the best place to catch me. Twitter as well. So watch those two outlets, those two platforms, and you'll see what I got going on.
No, absolutely. Well, and first, before I close this out here, Sam, I want to thank you so much for coming on here and just giving us the time to kind of speak with you and just, learn a little bit about your career and get to see what you're planning on doing in the future. So first, thank you very much for giving us the time to do that.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm a fan of the show. I've been to it a while. And so to be invited on the show and be able to tell my story, and I appreciate you.
If you are looking for the best books, DVDs, and posters on classic wrestling nostalgia, then you want to visit crowbarpress.com. There are literally dozens of titles there, including biographies of the likes of Bruiser Brody, Ole Anderson, Ivan Koloff, and of course, Dick the Bruiser, as we've spoke about here on the Dave Dynasty Show. You want to visit crowbarpress.com for all of your classic wrestling nostalgia needs. Again, that is crowbarpress.com. All right, and we're back. Thank you to John Lawson for coming on and remembering Rene Goulet and his time in the WWA as Jacques Goulet, member of the Legionnaires. Thank you to Ike Isaacs for that interview that he conducted. And special thank you to Sam Knight for coming on and doing it. Go check out Sam if you are in the area, in the Midwest, and anywhere in the area of a show that he is on. Go check him out. You will not be disappointed. So that's it. That's all we got for this week. It's kind of a short show, but we got right to it today, and hopefully, though, you enjoyed it. Please make sure you share it. Follow us on all the social medias. You heard all that earlier in the little break. So make sure you follow us, and when we put these posts out there and when we post the shows, please share them. Help us network, help us spread. If you listen to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or whatever it's called now, please go out there, give us a review and a rating, preferably 5 stars, but do what you want to do. And that helps in the algorithm, though. When people go out there and they listen to wrestling podcasts, and the more reviews and the more ratings and the higher we are, the more that we will come up when someone's listening to a wrestling podcast at the bottom where it says shows you may like or something like that. That helps us get exposure in there and helps us grow our audience. The show is available on all podcast platforms. So however you do, please share it. Please like it. Please rate, review it, and do all those things. Subscribe to us on whatever platform you are. We appreciate you being a member of the Midwest Express and helping our show continue to grow and continue to spread the word on Midwest professional wrestling, both past and present. And until next week, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.